So the election is over, and I just wanted to kind of give my response on the results. I'm sure, as everyone is aware by now, Donald Trump was elected the next president of the United States. And the Democrats are going crazy over this. I've seen where there's a lot of protests in some of the major cities, and there's several issues that I want to discuss on this. But my main issue with this is I am a self-proclaimed Democrat, but I'm not upset with Trump winning. I'm upset with the Democratic Party for letting him win. And uh, if you've watched my other video I did months ago during the primaries, you know that I was a supporter of Bernie Sanders. And when it was announced that Hillary Clinton was going to be the nominee for the Democratic Party, I was already worried then because I had a feeling that Trump was going to win even then, because all of the polls since the start of the primaries, all of the polls have shown that Hillary Clinton was never more than like 6 points ahead of Trump in all of the polls. Anytime there were any of these matchups between Trump and Clinton, there was never more than a 6 point lead with Hillary Clinton. But when you looked at Bernie Sanders against Trump, it was always like 13 points or 10 points or 9 points. There was always a significant margin of victory between, and it was always Bernie Sanders. No poll was released where Donald Trump was beating Bernie Sanders. All of the polls where it was Trump versus Sanders, Bernie Sanders was the clear victor by like no less than 13 points. But all of the polls showed that anytime there was a matchup between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, it was always a razor-thin margin, either one way or the other. Some polls showed Trump winning, others showed Hillary Clinton winning, but there was never, it was kind of like a wash, where it's, some of them said that she was winning, some of them didn't. And every Bernie supporter, we warned you people about this. The Democrats, for those of you who voted for Hillary, that were Hillary supporters, we were screaming this from rooftops during the primaries. We were telling you that you needed to set aside your bias. I don't know if it's because you guys were just gung-ho for a female president, or maybe you had been duped into thinking she was more qualified, or you had been conned into thinking she was trustworthy. I don't know. Whatever the reason, for some reason, you people thought Hillary Clinton was better suited than Bernie Sanders, despite all of the polls saying otherwise. And the Bernie supporters, we were warning you about this during the primaries. We were trying to point to these polls and show you that if you insisted on Hillary Clinton for the Democratic ticket, you were going to end up with this very situation where it was going to be a razor-thin nail biter of an election where when you get down to the last minute of the election, it would have been a situation where it could tip either way. It could either be Donald Trump as the winner, or it could be Hillary Clinton, just as the polls had predicted months before. And look at what happened. That's exactly what happened. I sat up for about 6 hours watching the election live the other night, and that's the way it was for the entire length of the night. Sometimes Hillary Clinton would pull ahead, other times Donald Trump would be ahead, other times Hillary Clinton would pull ahead again. It kind of like it pivoted back and forth. And of course, at the end, though, Donald Trump, once he got 30 electoral votes ahead, I had already called it by then. This was like 2 hours before the thing was over. I had already called it as Donald Trump, because when you get 30 electoral votes ahead, there is no making up that gap. So I can't. I'm just frustrated at the Democratic Party, because both the people who supported Hillary Clinton and the pundits in Washington and all of the mainstream media and everything, for whatever reason, you guys never seem to understand why Bernie Sanders was so popular and why he was garnering so much support. Now, personally, I think that you understood it perfectly, and you had to deny it on air, or in public for the sake of your audience. And to me, that's because you were trying to push this this pro-Hillary narrative, and I think that's why you guys. It's because off air, I think you guys knew damn well why Bernie Sanders was more popular. Is because he was he was clearly a candidate who was more in line with what the people wanted. He was not an establishment candidate. He was not beholden to any corporate donors, and he didn't have any conservative views. He was very progressive. He was the ideal progressive candidate, and he was very popular with independents. He was very popular with African Americans, Latinos, Democrats. But so on the one side, you had Bernie Sanders, who was this anti-establishment, progressive candidate, and then on the other side, you had Hillary Clinton, who was clearly a corporate shill and had at best, a shaky track record. I mean, her entire career, her entire integrity was, it was under the magnifying glass, and it was up in the air. There was, I mean, there was significant doubt, even among Democrats. There was significant doubt on the honesty and the integrity of Hillary Clinton. And there was nothing like that on Bernie Sanders. There was no dirt on Bernie Sanders, but the dirt has been piling up on Hillary Clinton for years. And so you had this strong contrast between these two candidates, between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. And all of the polls, all of the history, all of the opinions of the voters, everything, every system of measurement, everything you look at, everything clearly showed Bernie Sanders as the preferred candidate for the Democratic ballot. But because Bernie Sanders is anti-establishment and our politicians are bought and paid for by corporations, and they are part of this establishment, and this broken, corrupt system we have keeps them in power, we got this establishment candidate pushed down our throats anyway. And I don't know whether or not corporations were genuinely concerned about Donald Trump being elected. I was. Democrats certainly were. And that's something that I just don't understand. If the Democrats, if the pro-Hillary Democrats were genuinely concerned about Donald Trump being elected president, why did you continue to support a candidate who clearly did not have very good chances of beating him? I mean, all of the polls show that Bernie Sanders would have beaten Donald Trump by the landslide. And by the way, there was another poll that was just released today that confirms that. So I don't understand that. If you guys were so worried about Donald Trump being elected, you realize that if there's like a 13-point gap between, if Bernie Sanders is ahead by 13 points, there's no cause to worry. I mean, there's no questioning that Bernie Sanders would be the winner. It's not like a give and take and like a wash of an election, of a contest. There's a clear winner. So why is it that you guys insisted on this candidate who she had very slim chances of beating Donald Trump? I mean, you literally gambled this country's entire fucking future on this election. And it wasn't just like a fucking poker game in Vegas. I mean, literally everything was at stake. The House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, the presidency, the next 4 years of this country's future, middle-class Americans, their lives, their families, their paychecks, their health care, their education, the climate, the whole fucking 9 yards. I mean, you literally fucking bet the whole farm on this election, and then you gamble it away on this candidate who had, at best, mediocre chances of winning. And then now you're surprised that we lost? I mean, come on. I mean, this is not rocket science, okay? You don't get to bitch and moan now that you lost to Donald Trump when you deliberately picked a candidate who could potentially lose. So, yeah, I'm not. A lot of the protests, that are going on right now for Bernie Sanders, they're protesting Donald Trump's victory, and I, for one, I mean, if we take into account that our electoral system is fucked up, you have to say that he won fair and square. He won the same way that every other candidate has ever won in this screwed up system. Even though Hillary Clinton had the majority of the popular votes, Uh, Donald Trump got the most electoral votes, and as I've been saying before, a lot of you people disliked my video, thumbed down my video that I did about how voting is rigged, and you guys insisted that there was not, the electoral vote was something that was a necessity. And yet again, here is a clear example of what I'm talking about. This is why I'm always saying that the popular vote means precisely dick. Is because if you go by the popular vote, Hillary Clinton won, but it's not, the popular vote is not what chooses who your next president is. It's the electoral vote. That's what counts. And that is, as I'm still not 100% on. I don't understand that system is screwed up to me. I don't understand because I gave someone an example here the other day about how this system works, and just in a nutshell, each state is assigned a certain number of electoral votes. For I think the minimum is 3. And so let's just use one state for example. Let's just say Nebraska. Let's say that in the popular vote, let me back up. Okay, whoever has the majority vote in the popular vote, they get all of the electoral votes. Okay, for that state. So if Nebraska has 3 electoral votes, okay, that will go towards choosing a president. Okay, but only 54% or 60% of people in Nebraska vote for Trump. The popular vote will show that only 60% of Nebraska wanted Trump as president. But because we have this fucked up electoral system, the electoral vote will show that 100% of Nebraska wanted Trump. So that's how you end up with this situation that we have now, where the popular vote showed that Hillary Clinton won, but then you have the electoral vote that shows that Trump won. So you have this contradicting results. But to me, that's a discussion for another day. It's the electoral system. I know needs to be abolished. It needs to be taken out of the equation because it's clear that it's broken and it no longer functions as it was intended by our founding fathers. But that's beside the point. And to me, that is not the main reason why the Democrats lost this election. The main reason, without a doubt, is because you guys deliberately picked a candidate who had very poor chances of winning. So you don't get to bitch and moan now that you lost to Donald Trump. I mean, it's bad enough that you lost to Republicans, but it's even worse that you lost to someone like Donald Trump. But you guys refuse to acknowledge why people liked Bernie Sanders, and it was because he was against the establishment. He was for getting money out of politics. He was for addressing this income inequality that we have in this country. He was for addressing the climate issues that we have. I mean, he directly and aggressively addressed issues that mattered to the middle class. And that's why Bernie Sanders was the most popular candidate. Whereas on the other side, you had Hillary Clinton, who would say one thing and mean another. She would, a lot of times, she would adopt Bernie Sanders as talking points only after realizing that those talking points were what was making Bernie Sanders popular. So she was like this fake, transparent, generic Washington politician who was out in the open, was bought and paid for by corporate interests, and that's not even mentioning all that email BS. So she was just not a trustworthy politician, even for Democrats. She offered nothing for us to hang our hats on. And this is what I tried to tell you guys before, whenever you guys were blasting Bernie supporters for claiming that they would vote for Trump if Hillary Clinton ended up winning the nomination. I warned you guys that that's what they would fucking do, and that's what happened. That's what happened. Because Hillary Clinton didn't give them anything to hang their hats on. Okay? Not being Donald Trump is not good enough. Okay? That's not a reason for me to vote Hillary Clinton. Okay? You have to give me something for me to hang my hat on. It's not enough that you're not Donald Trump. Okay? That literally for the last 3 months of the election, that's what Hillary Clinton's message was. Pretty much. I mean, anytime she tried to convince undecided voters, or she was trying to persuade Trump supporters to switch sides, that was literally her message. It was that I'm not Donald Trump. Vote for me because I'm not Donald Trump. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. Okay, for progressives, we're not going to just vote Democrat by default because you're the Democratic nominee. Okay, you have to give us something to hang our hat on, and you offered nothing. You offered nothing for them to hang their hat on. So what did they do? They fucking jumped ship. Okay, they did exactly what they threatened they would do. They supported Donald Trump. They all agreed that Donald Trump. I'm not saying that Donald Trump is this godsend that's gonna save the country and push all these progressive issues. But that, to me, in this election, that was secondary. Okay, the main focal point, the main talking point, the main thing that the people cared about was whether or not they were a bought and paid for corrupt politician. Okay, and whether or not Donald Trump actually is corrupt or not is beside the point. But what matters is that people viewed him as authentic. They viewed him as someone who was not a corrupt politician, just the same way they viewed Bernie Sanders. Okay, and that's why they voted for Donald Trump. Okay, Bernie Sanders had the majority of the independent vote. Okay, but the independents didn't support Hillary Clinton, so she lost all of those votes, and she didn't even try to win them over. So, yeah, the Democrats are the ones that screwed up this election. Okay, I'm not happy about the results. I didn't want Donald Trump to win. I know I said in my earlier video that the video I did months ago that I would rather have Donald Trump than a establishment candidate, and frankly, I still stand by that. Okay, there's no way to predict what Donald Trump would do as president. Some of the things he's already said he was going to do, he's already backpedaled on. Like there's not going to be a wall, and I just saw an article posted earlier where he's actually not going to repeal Obamacare. But who knows? Okay, it's not even he's not even sworn in yet, so it's too early to tell. But one thing is for certain, okay, and the studies, you only need to, if you've been following politics for the last 6 months here in the United States, then it's very, very obvious why the Democrats lost, okay? It's because they abandoned their base voter. The base voter, the middle class, the hardworking, blue-collar, white-collar worker that was fed up with this corrupt system that we have and was fed up with being screwed over by these corrupt politicians. They abandoned that voter because they felt that they were entitled to their vote just for being Democrat. And whether or not that was an underestimation on their part is beside the point. The point is, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter whether you think you're entitled to their vote or not. Okay, get out there and earn their vote anyway. So even if you didn't actually plan on doing any of those things, like addressing income inequality and climate change and all these progressive agendas, even if you had no intention of doing those things whatsoever, which is more than likely the case with Donald Trump, at least fucking get out there and make it seem like you are, okay? Because that, at the very least, will convince your voters that you actually care about them, and they'll be more inclined to vote for you. But you didn't do any of that, Hillary Clinton. You didn't even try to bridge the gap between these voters and your position in the Democratic Party. And by the way, your position in the Democratic Party was not a very pleasant one. Okay, you were in the pocket of these major corporations, and it's all over. It's clear that you didn't care about the people's view. As per your emails, you were more concerned with political gain than you were the what was good for the people, and that's what got you. That's what lost you the election. Is you put your own personal political agendas ahead of the will of the people, and this is what happens when you do that. Okay, when you get down to a situation like this where the majority of the country does not have a favorable view of you, and you force yourself onto the Democratic ticket, you force voters into choosing between you and some other wild card candidate who may or may not be completely batshit crazy, but is clearly not a typical Washington politician. They're going to vote for the other guy. They're not going to vote for you, okay? It doesn't matter what shit Donald Trump says. It doesn't matter what offensive crap he's done or how fascist he is or any of that stuff like that. The mentality of the American voter, and I said this before my video, is that they would rather see the country crash and burn under Donald Trump than to suffer one more minute under this current corrupt system we have. And again, I cannot. I'm more pissed off at the Democratic Party than I am anything else for this election, because as soon as you guys chose Hillary Clinton as your nominee, you lost the election then. Okay, the election was over then, and I remember the day I found out, the day that I just heard that Hillary Clinton was the nominee, my stomach turned because I just deep down inside I knew it was already over. Okay, because I had been watching the polls and I knew how unfavorable Hillary Clinton was with the not forget the Republicans. We all know the Republicans had they didn't have a favorable view of Hillary Clinton, but even on the Democratic side, the Democrats did not have a favorable view of Hillary Clinton. But you forced them into choosing between Donald Trump or your establishment candidate, and now you're puzzled for why they didn't choose an establishment candidate. I mean, do you think that do you think the American voters like the system we have in place where you screw them over at every opportunity for your own political gain? Do you think they like being screwed over? So do you think they like you being paid millions of dollars in speaking fees and having political favors and everything at their expense? You think they like that? So yeah, you underestimated the intelligence of your voters for one. So yeah, that's my take on it. I'm not pissed at the Republicans. I mean, I hate that the Democrats lost, but I mean, damn, what did you expect? Okay, you picked a losing candidate, and now you're puzzled as to why you lost the election. I mean, shit. Okay, so yeah, that's my take on it. I, you know, everybody's saying that possibly Elizabeth Warren could be running in 4 years, but you know, the thing is, I don't even know that we'll even be here in 4 years because Donald Trump is such a wild card. But like I said, he has backpedaled on several issues. He said, like the wall, and he's probably not even going to deport the immigrants like he said he was going to do. And my wife has this crazy idea, and of course it's just a hypothetical, that Donald Trump, you know, he actually donated to the Clinton Foundation in the past before he was running for president. And my wife seems to think that Donald Trump, in reality, he's kind of like this wolf in sheep's clothing, where he's actually a progressive, and he just ran as a Republican because he knew that was the easiest base to pander to, and because that's all he was doing. That's how he won the Republican side easily. He just told them what they wanted to hear so he could get their vote, and because all of you Republicans, you fucking idiots, okay, you guys voted for Trump because you wanted the Muslims banned and you wanted that wall built on the southern border, but now your main man, Donald Trump, is saying that there's not going to be a wall and that he's not going to ban all the Muslims. So you fucking morons, you guys got duped, you got conned. So anyway, but I'm not mad at you guys. I mean, you guys, if for whatever reason you had for voting for Donald Trump, if you didn't vote for Hillary Clinton because you didn't like that she was an establishment candidate, or she was a liar, or she was dishonest, or whatever, you were justified in your decision. Because there's no denying that Hillary Clinton has at best, a sketchy track record. And Bernie Sanders didn't. But the establishment they shit their pants at the very thought of an anti-establishment candidate getting in there and overturning their apple cart. And they would rather, I mean, they literally just gambled away the America's future on this fucking election because they were so scared. They have this this iron fist, you know, clamped around our government, and they have in their hands the power to fix laws, you know, and pass legislation that's in their favor. And it's taken them nearly 30 years to slowly but surely set this system in place where they have control over our government. And it's taken them so long, and they like this system so much that they won't risk losing it under any circumstances. So even if it means gambling on a fucking election where your opponent is just fucking batshit crazy, you know, fascist moron, it doesn't matter. Like the only to an establishment, to a corporation, the only thing worse than Donald Trump as president is Bernie Sanders as president. And that's why they chose Hillary Clinton. That's why they pushed Hillary Clinton as the Democratic candidate. It's because they would rather have a losing Democratic candidate on the ballot than an anti-establishment winning candidate. So don't act surprised that you fucking lost. You lost the House, you lost the Senate, you lost the Supreme Court, and you lost the President. You lost the whole fucking 9 yards because I told you guys in my last video, everything was at stake in this election. The stakes were too high. The stakes were too high in this election to gamble it away on something as uncertain as Hillary Clinton. So if you were genuinely concerned with winning this election and stopping Donald Trump from being president, you would have picked Bernie Sanders. But Bernie Sanders was anti-establishment, so you couldn't have that. You would rather lose the election to Donald Trump than have an anti-establishment candidate in there. So yeah, I'm not mad at the Republicans for winning. I'm mad at the Democrats for fucking losing. Because you guys don't act surprised. Don't give me that bullshit like you're surprised that we lost. Okay, you know damn well why you lost. Okay, it's because Hillary Clinton was your nominee and not Bernie Sanders.